Okay, so ready for another deep dive. Today, we're gonna explore something totally out there.
All right.
A creature that's, well, let's just say it's not exactly real. We're talking about the flesh-eating sand piranha.
Ooh, sounds scary.
Right. I mean, just the name itself is enough to give you the chills.
But that's what we're here for, right? To dive into the weird and wonderful world of mythical creatures.
Yeah.
We've got this article all about them, these sand piranhas. And even though they're made up, it's kind of cool to think about what they tell us about our fascination with monsters and all things unknown, you know?
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, the sand piranha, it's like a perfect example of how we take something familiar, something scary like a piranha, and then put it in a completely unexpected place like the desert.
Yeah. It's like that classic horror movie trope, right? You know, what's the last place you want to find a piranha? And then bam, there they are in the middle of the desert.
Exactly. It's like it plays on our deepest fears, right?
Totally. So before we get into the nitty-gritty of what these sand piranhas are supposed to be like,
Let's take a step back, Where does an idea like this even come from? Like, where did somebody first come up with a flesh-eating sand piranha?
well, think about it. Cultures all over the world, they have these mythical creatures.
Yeah.
They embody fears, often like fears connected to the natural world.
Yeah.
Sometimes they're like cautionary tales, right, to teach people about danger. Sometimes they're like explanations for things people don't understand. And then sometimes, I mean, let's be honest, sometimes they're just fun to tell stories about, especially scary stories.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, who doesn't love a good campfire story with, like, a creepy monster lurking in the shadows?
Totally.
So, okay, maybe this sand piranha started as a campfire story. But this article we have, it actually tries to imagine what they'd be like if they were real, which is pretty cool. Like, they actually go into detail about, their biology, their behavior. And right off the bat, the thing that stands out is that they live in the desert, which, when you think about it, it's a pretty brutal place, right? Scorching sun, not a whole lot of water, and food's pretty scarce. It makes you wonder, how could a creature like a piranha even survive in a place like that?
Well, you got to think about adaptation, right? Just like any creature that lives in the desert, real desert creatures, I mean, like camels, they got their humps for storing water. Or fennec foxes with those huge ears that help them radiate heat. The article says that these sand piranhas, they have these rough, sand-colored scales. And that makes sense, right, for camouflage.
Yeah.
You wouldn't want to stand out in the middle of the desert. You'd be like a beacon for predators.
Right. It's like blend in or become lunch.
Exactly.
And speaking of how the desert shapes these creatures, let's get into what they're supposed to look like. The article describes them as being pretty small, relatively speaking, maybe like the size of your hand, but with, and get this, rows of razor-sharp teeth. And they even have this kind of reptilian or insectoid look to them. Definitely not something you'd want to stumble across on a desert hike.
Right.
Right. And here's where the myth gets really wild. The article actually suggests that these sand piranhas, they've adapted to swim through sand. Now, that's a cool image, right?
Yeah.
But it does make you wonder, how would that even work? I mean, there are real desert animals, like the sandfish lizard. They kind of wiggle their way through loose sand,
Oh, yeah, I've seen those.
It makes you think, could a creature like the sand piranha, could it have evolved a similar way of moving?
Yeah, that would be wild.
So maybe those horror movies aren't too far off, with creatures suddenly bursting out from under the sand. Now, the article also mentions that they have these small eyes, but they're specially adapted for detecting movement and heat.
Oh, wow.
Think about it. In the desert, it's wide open, right? Being able to sense the heat signature of prey, that would be a huge advantage.
Absolutely. Like nature's version of infrared vision, right?
Exactly. And in a place where food is so scarce, being able to find your next meal quickly and efficiently, I mean, that's the difference between surviving and, well, not surviving. And these guys, they don't hunt alone, do they?
No.
The article, it really emphasizes that piranha connection, describing them as these pack hunters.
Makes sense.
What do you think? What's the advantage of hunting in a group, especially in a tough place like the desert?
Well, think about it this way. In the desert, prey is hard to find.
Right.
It's spread out. By working together, a pack of sand piranhas could take down, larger prey, something that one of them alone couldn't handle. Plus, there's safety in numbers, right?
Sure.
A group, they're more likely to spot predators.
Right.
And they can defend themselves better.
The strength in numbers, especially when you have all those teeth we were talking about. The article, it describes them as ambush predators, lurking just beneath the sand and waiting to sense vibrations of, anything unfortunate enough to walk by. I mean, that image alone is enough to give you nightmares. But it makes me wonder, why are we so fascinated by these creatures, even though they're completely made up?
I think it's partly the thrill of the unknown.
Yeah.
We get to explore these what ifs.
Yeah. And push the boundaries of our imagination. We get to feel that fear and that sense of wonder without being in actual danger.
Right, it's like a safe way to experience fear.
Exactly.
Hmm.
Plus, I think these creatures, a lot of times they reflect our anxieties about the natural world, the things we can't control.
So even though we know logically that flesh-eating sand piranhas aren't real, thinking about them and where this idea might have come from, it helps us understand a little bit more about, well, about ourselves, right?
I think so.
It's like a window into our fears and, our creativity and that never-ending fascination with what might be hiding just out of sight.
Exactly. And it reminds us that even in a world where we have so much information at our fingertips, our imaginations, they still crave a little bit of mystery.
Yeah, that's a great point. And here's something to think about. For all of you listening, if you were to create your own terrifying creature, what kind of environment would it live in? What unique adaptations would make it truly frightening?
Something to ponder, right?
Definitely something to ponder.
So until next time, keep exploring, keep imagining, and maybe watch out for those shadows in the sand.
Good advice.
You never know what might be lurking there.
You never know.
All right, until next time.
See ya.